Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Don't touch that dial. Today, my guest is a former district attorney, assistant district attorney. Also, he worked as a public defender, helping people that can't afford a lawyer, which is state law. You have to have a lawyer before you go into court. And he lives in Norristown. Okay, we have a lawyer that lives in Norristown. He didn't move out of town. And he's been here since 1951. So I think he knows something about Norristown, its changes, and what's on the agenda, and what we're looking at in the future. And he's my good friend. He was assistant DA under Judge Smythe, who was judge, but he was district attorney at the time, and I was a county detective. So we worked together, and I've known him for many years. So, Joe, welcome to Hank Cisco Show. Now, I always like to know something about you. Okay, now, you were born where?
I was born in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania, the anthracite coal regions.
That's the hard coal.
The hard coal.
Right.
Both my great-grandfathers and my grandfathers were coal miners.
Coal miners.
Yes, and our family came down from the coal regions after the Second World War, and our first house was on Hawes Avenue in Norristown.
Right.
And then we moved to East Norton Township, and then after I got married, we moved into Norristown.
Right, they're up there in North Hills area, right?
We're in the Norris Hills section of Norristown.
Right. And what schools did you attend?
Well, I attended Bishop
I'm
County.
only asking this here, so I want people to know that you have a background of education, right?
Well,
okay.
I hope so.
Right.
I graduated from Bishop Kenrick High School.
Bishop Kenrick?
Bishop Kenrick.
Father Moores,
Father
right?
Moores.
Was the principal.
Yes, he was.
Right.
I graduated from St. Joseph's University and from the Villanova Law School.
Right.
I've been a member of the bar since 1976. Mm-hmm. I was in private practice for 4 years. Then I joined the district attorney's office under then District Attorney Joseph Smythe.
Right.
And I worked for Mr. Smythe for 7 years, after which time I joined the public defender's office. And throughout that time, I maintained my own private practice of
Right.
law.
And you write books or something. You're doing some creative writing. I remember I went to community college in creative writing.
Right.
So,
I've been fortunate enough to have 4 short stories win prizes, and they were published. I'm presently working on a biography. The other works were fiction. I'm trying to do some nonfiction. I'm trying to write a biography of Dennis Cardinal Dougherty, the great Archbishop of Philadelphia from 1918 to 1951. And that's coming along slowly, but surely.
well, Cardinal Dougherty, was he cardinal at the time when they were having all the trouble? They're breaking the windows in the churches and all that?
No, that was as a matter of fact, that was Bishop Kenrick. Back in
Kenrick, you're right, yeah.
Back in the 1840s, the so-called Know-Nothing Party would attack Catholics and attack the Catholic churches.
Right.
And Bishop Kenrick and Bishop Hughes were very staunch defenders of not only the rights of Roman Catholics, but also the right to have their churches be let alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, in fact, the cathedral, St. Peter and Paul, the cathedral in Philadelphia, they broke the windows, and I understand now there's no windows there. They're all brick.
That's correct. According to lore, the windows in the Cathedral of St. Peter's and Paul are very high and very narrow, so it's very difficult to break.
So they're going to break any windows. They have to reach up here. They have to have a pretty strong arm to break.
That's correct.
So, well, okay. Now, being a public defender, which means now but not all the public is, you don't defend all the public. There are different procedures, policies, and restrictions. Now, you say, well, somebody don't have a lawyer. He's got arrested or whatever, whatever. Once he gets a lawyer, he goes to the public defender. What's the criteria, or what do you call it?
Okay. Under the Supreme Court's decision in Gideon versus Wainwright, 1963, that established the right of persons who are accused of a crime. They have the right to an attorney, a constitutional right to an attorney. If a defendant, one accused of a crime, is indigent and cannot afford counsel, the state has a constitutional and a legal obligation to provide him or her with competent counsel. All right. When if a person needs the services of the public defender, they come into the courthouse. on the second floor, and they fill out an application. And there are certain criteria: income, number of children, various properties that the applicant might have,
yeah, you might
and they may or may not qualify for the services of
If they
the
got the
public
money,
defender.
should pay. It's for the poor people who can't afford it.
That's right. It's for people who are indigent. Under the Supreme Court's decision, they have a right to counsel.
All right. And people say, well, you got a public defender, he's not too sharp, you know. But a public defender's in that courtroom a lot more than a regular lawyer.
That's
right?
correct. The public
So
defenders.
what experience could they pick up?
Well, the public defenders are in court every day.
Every day.
And there is no better teacher than experience.
Right.
And the judges get to know them. They get to know their ethics. They get to know their persuasiveness.
Right.
And
Judge, right.
the court will recognize them for what they are: very able members of the bar. And the members of the Montgomery County Public Defender's Office, and I know from firsthand experience, are very diligent, very conscientious, and very able.
Right. Now, that's their office is in the courthouse, right?
That's correct.
Right, okay. Now, tell me an interesting case that somebody comes in and you had to, I know that sometimes the judge will appoint a lawyer to defend a person. Now, I remember there was a prisoner killed the cook up at Greater Fort. I think he was the cook because the eggs were too soft. They didn't cook them right or something. He somehow or other killed them. No. And I remember that the judge appointed Steve Usum to defend this fellow. And he found out that the key witness that they had was saying that guy was a killer. The guy that was saying he's the killer, he was the killer. So the public defender went in there and he fights hard to get, make sure that when they fight, you say, well, look, you take a case, a lawyer takes a case, he figures, well, the guy's guilty, Well, why do you defend the guy if he's guilty?
Well, under the Constitution, under the law, a defendant is presumed to be innocent. And it's the never-shifting burden of the prosecution, the never-shifting burden of the Commonwealth to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant, being presumed innocent, doesn't have to testify. It's up to the state, it's up to the prosecution to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
Now,
Reasonable doubt. That's the big question, right?
yes, reasonable doubt is a doubt that causes one to pause and hesitate in a matter of great importance.
You say, well, wait a minute now. I think that's reasonable doubt. In other words,
And it can't be a fanciful doubt or an imaginary doubt. It has to be a genuine issue of fact that causes the jury or the juror to have a reasonable doubt about the Commonwealth's case, weighing the Commonwealth's case against the defendant's case. All right? As for the court appointing Mr. Usum, whoever that defendant was very fortunate because there are few lawyers in Montgomery County better than Steve Usum.
I know. I know how I got to know him one time was Judge Groshen. Judge Groshen was a hard-hitting judge.
Yes, he was.
And if you wouldn't, I was a policeman at the time, and if you went in the courtroom and you got your coat and you threw it over put it over the bench, he'd stop you, get that coat off there, And I never forget one time that the judge said something, and Steve Usum got up and said, Your Honor, he says, I said sit down. He said, Your Honor, and he's like, I says, my God. I says, if I ever need a lawyer, I'm going to get him because he can bounce and turn out to be really good. And then when I challenged the lieutenant's test, they found that the test was not wrong, or was not right. They messed up, whatever, and the Commonwealth Court threw it out. I took it all the way to Commonwealth Court, but Steve stayed with it all the way to the end,
Well, you speak about Judge Groshen. He was quite a character.
Yeah.
He graduated from Harvard Law School during its golden age, and as a young lawyer, the first time I ever appeared in court, it was a 3-judge panel. They called it en banc, and there was Judge Groshen's.
En banc means that 3 judges?
3 judges, en banc,
right.
E-N-B-A-N-C.
Right.
It's Norman French. It was Judge Grossen's, Judge Tredinnick, and Judge Lau. It was my first time in court, and I was scared silly.
Right.
But they were very courteous, very nice. The argument went as well as expected, but I have very fond memories of Judge Gross.
Yeah,
He was a
yeah.
character.
But each judge had a characteristic. You know.
Correct.
Judge Cirillo, who was it?
He was a very robust, red-blooded,
Right.
sort of an irreverent man, but a wonderful judge
Right.
and a wonderful lawyer.
Right.
He was the prosecutor in the Elmo Smith case.
Right. He was a prosecutor in the Elmo Smith case where there was murdered Mary Ann Mitchell.
That is correct.
Right.
They tried that case in Adams County.
Right.
The prosecution, or the Commonwealth, was represented by Assistant District Attorney Vincent Cirillo,
Right.
who later became President Judge of the Superior Court.
Right.
Mr. Smith was represented by Gilbert High Sr.
And he was
And-
in Steve Houston's office.
Exactly, and Joseph Phelps.
Right.
Joseph Phelps. And,
Right.
of course, Elmo was convicted, and he was executed.
Yeah, I know when he was put in county prison, that they were going to send him to Gettysburg for the trial.
That's
I think it
correct.
was, right. So the sergeant, he said, Cisco, I don't want you there, because there was rumor out that somebody was going to shoot him when he comes out of the prison.
Yeah.
So we had Norristown police, we had it all protected, and they had the county detectives and sheriffs, and so. And the high steps there at the prison still there, you know.
Yes.
So all the photographers were there waiting. They're going to, as soon as the door opened, they're going to take a picture. So the sergeant said to me, Cisco, I don't want you in that picture. I want you out down the street. Okay, that's all right. So next thing you know, the door's open. Out comes almost with about 4 or 5 cops all around him, and they rushed. So they couldn't get any pictures, right? So they rushed down him, and then here there was a sheriff's car there waiting. They opened the door. So I'm just standing there by the car, right? Next thing you know, they took a picture, and I'm in the picture, you know. And it went AP all over it. My sergeant says, I tried to get you out of here. But that was a great.
That was a horrific
Scary
case.
when they called the sneaker that time.
Yes.
Everybody was afraid. The woman was afraid to even, the guy would stop the car and go to mail a letter, and she would stand on the corner, and she thought the guy was going to grab her or rape her or something, you know. It was a fear in the whole town, you know.
Joseph Phelps, who has since died, as a matter of fact, I'll be giving his memorial minute later this month. Joseph Phelps, who was counsel in the Smith case, left me his entire Elmo Smith file.
Oh, yeah?
And all the notes of testimony, all his memoranda, his correspondence. And I wrote an article for the Montgomery Bar Association about the case, about everything that was involved,
Right.
and how they tried very hard to save Mr. Smith, but the evidence was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith had given 2 confessions. He had reenacted the crime, and they had forensic evidence. It was a lot of forensic evidence, even back in 1959, and he was convicted by an Adams County
There was a
judge.
lot of little friction between Philadelphia police. It was Captain Ferguson, I think.
That's right.
Was involved.
Clarence Ferguson.
And there was, so that's what happens sometimes. You get the case where there's 3 or 4 police departments or divisions, the state police, FBI, and all, it becomes a little problem.
Right. Well, Mary Ann Mitchell was abducted in Philadelphia, but she was murdered in Montgomery County.
Henry Avenue.
That's correct. Hence, the venue was properly laid in Montgomery
So
County.
the body over there on
Harts Lane.
Right.
Harts Lane in White Marsh Township.
Right. Yeah. And that was a classic case. Well, there was another big case, the Bruno, where 5 people.
Right. Well, I don't know
remember
that. I don't know anything about that case.
Yeah, five people were murdered, and that's a relation. That was a classic case. But now, you do other things too. You were announcer for Norristown High School basketball team too, right?
Yes.
Tell me something about that.
That was a lot of fun. For 3 years, Coach Bob Koch and I broadcast the Norristown varsity basketball games. And we really enjoyed it, and we got some very, very positive feedback. I did the play-by-play, and Mr. Koch having won 2 state titles, he was the color analyst. And I remember that I was sort of easy on the youngsters, but Coach Koch was very, very strict on the youngsters.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun, and our contract simply wasn't renewed for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was a lot of fun.
You talk about how things change in law enforcement and all. When I started as a policeman, I think I made $2,300 a year, worked 6 days a week, and I had to pay 20% of my uniform, you know.
Right.
And I just 2 weeks ago, my grandson just graduated at the police academy down there. And,
Congratulations.
Right, and he got high honors on the shooting and also running. The fastest runner, he broke the record.
Good.
And so I understand he's got just a part-time job with Bridgeport Police, until he gets something.
Every police officers earn every dollar
Right,
that they
right.
make. It's the toughest job in the world. It's one of the few jobs where you leave your house in the morning, strap on that pistol,
right.
put that badge on,
Never
put that
know.
vest on, and you never ever
It's
know.
a funny feeling when you put the first time you're in uniform, you walk down the street and people say hello. They never say hello to you
Right,
before,
right.
But my grandson was telling me, I forget, 300-400 took the test, and other, so many people applying for a job as a police officer, And now you have to have a degree. I didn't. They put me on the street. They give me a gun and a badge and a nightstick. Gun, badge, nightstick. That's it.
Well, the police
No training.
Well, the police officers correctly are better educated.
Oh, yeah.
They're younger.
You have to be.
Here in Norristown, we have an excellent police department.
Right.
And those young
Montgomery
men,
County. Really,
in Montgomery
really,
County.
right.
I'm only familiar with Norristown.
Yeah.
I know that they're
Well, I happened to do it because when I was working in the DA's office, I had to go to different police departments, pick up
Right.
reports and all. So I got to know police departments.
Right. Yeah, but we are fortunate
Right.
in Norristown to have
Right.
a splendid police department.
And I remember they put us out in the street with no training. Now you get 5.5 months mandatory, mandatory police training. And I don't know what training. I think my parents gave me the best training that I felt that helping people, that's the basic thing, as a police officer. I think that's, it's not to go out to arrest everybody. I think you arrest whoever, is breaking the law, but basically it's helping people, and then that's why I first I got involved with juvenile division. That was very rewarding, and now I'm the ambassador of Norristown, which I go around kissing babies, right? So, all right, now, Norristown, what changed since 1951? So what are some of the things that, years ago there was 12 councilmen, right? Now there's 7 councilmen. We're in a revitalization and all, but what are some of the things that you think, we're conversation now, we're not elected officials, to make this town move?
I think the thing that would really help Norristown would be to attract 2 or 3 light industries, okay? Light manufacturing. It would increase the tax base and thereby relieving some of the tax burden on the property owners.
Right.
The studio, it's going to be interesting to see what the studio up at Logan Square, how that's going to turn out. But I can say this, that the present government, I'm fairly satisfied with. There's been a big improvement since before the U.S. attorneys came in to Norristown and cleaned house.
Yeah.
Okay, right now, I think the local government's doing a nice job.
Right.
Local government has four tasks. Number 1, police. Number 2, fire. Number 3, trash.
Right.
And number 4, streets and roads.
Right.
As I indicated before, I think we have an excellent police department. We have an excellent fire response team.
Right.
Our trash is regularly collected.
Right.
And
That's Mascara does a good job.
Yes,
Good
they
job.
do. And the one thing I was a little disappointed is, we were hit with some staggering snowstorms.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe the local government could have done a little better job with the snow.
I have to agree with you there. That was not good.
Because 3 or 4 days after the snow stopped, our street was like the surface of the moon. And that's really, that's not doing 1/4 of your job. Because again, it's police, fire, trash, streets and roads.
We're only 3 square miles, and it's not like spread out like some townships were maybe 6 square miles or so, And I think that I criticized a little bit and the fact that after the light snow we had and they threw salt, and I saw salt. Was heavy at spots and like where different areas, big piles of salt and all. And over here, salt over there, salt on top of car. I said, what, they throw this salt with a helicopter? I said, come on, And And then I understand they ran out of salt for the second time, you know. So, well, I mean, that's things that okay, it wasn't work right. Let's look at it and make it right for the next time.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm not going to just sit down, shut up, and fold your hands. I'm not going to do that. That's not that's my style. I think everybody has an area where we can improve. And how about the arts? Now, I think I go over to Ambler. I go over there at the booth, next to the theater there. 9 o'clock at night, the Main Street, it looked like Broadway. The rest of it was full.
There are two.
And we're the county seat.
There are two local municipalities, Phoenixville and Ambler,
Right.
that have theaters.
Right.
And those theaters have formed the base of a renaissance of activity in those respective municipalities.
Right.
There's the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, and there's the Ambler Theater in Ambler.
Right.
And they're like little jewels.
Right.
And establishments like that attract restaurants,
Right.
attract boutique shops, makes for a nicer community.
Right.
And I don't understand. I know for a fact that we have a theater group on
Right.
on DeKalb Street.
John Doyle, who's the director of this show here, the teacher at Norristown High School, and his mother, Fran Doyle. I mean, you talk about loyalty. You talk about somebody that has their heart in something that's. I don't think she even got paid all the years it's struggling down there.
And I mean, there's nothing finer than a well-written, well-acted play.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and if they put on those productions, you're going to have people coming back into the town and patronizing not only the theater
Right.
but the local shops, the local businesses.
Stores, right. They come into Norristown, they're going to spend money.
Right.
I know I interviewed the cast. There's a show down there, I can't think of the title of it, but there's a show there. And it's great show.
Mm-hmm.
It only holds maybe 65, 75 people, you know. And right now there's a movement on, and there's already money in the pot for either enlarging that theater that's there or building a new one, you know. But the money coming in, the state, the Verb, Mascara, and different people that contribute, you know, and the borough's stepping in, and so it's going to be something. I know, I go all the way to Philadelphia to see a show, and I always kidded. I pay $60 for a seat up in the balcony, and the seat was broken. Here I'm sitting there, but here you got a ringside seat,
Sure.
and I talked to John Doyle, and he tells me. Majority of the people that come to see the show in Norristown come from Philadelphia and the suburbs, you know. So, and a lot of people in Norristown didn't know it's there.
The last show my wife and I attended, we went to see A Man for All Seasons on Broadway, starring Frank Langella. And wonderful experience. And it would be nice to have such an experience here in Norristown. It'd be terrific.
It's great. It's great. Now, what else do you think now? 1951. What are some of the changes?
Well, I mean, I was only 3 years old in 1951.
What?
I was only 3 years old.
What am I talking? I'm 86 then, right?
Well, I'm a little younger than you. Not that much, but a little younger. But I remember growing up in Norristown, growing up in East Norton, and it was a nice place to grow up in.
Well, what did you do for sports? You play sports?
I played baseball, and that has developed into officiating. I'm a baseball umpire.
Oh yeah.
What
kind of league?
Well, PIAA, high schools, American Legion baseball. As a matter of fact, I was privileged to do the state championship American Legion tournament, the final game and the semifinal game when it was held over in Valley Forge. And of course, I do the Perkiomen Valley Twilight League, which is really excellent baseball. It's basically college baseball. The boys come home from for the summer, and they play in the Perky League, and they're fun games to do because they really understand the game, and they're fun to do.
I had to bounce back. We were talking about police earlier, and they wanted 6 policemen back in 1951, and 7 people applied, 7 applications. Now we're talking about now hundreds, 300, 400, 500 apply, and so they wanted 6 7 applied, 1 guy didn't show up, 6 of us, so we all passed. You know? And and there was, I think the meters then was, the meters come in effect, was 1 penny for 15 minutes and 5 cents for an hour, you know. And then it got real expensive. It got 10 cents for an hour, you know. So now I think it's what, the quarter for half
25
hour.
cents for every 15 minutes.
15 minutes,
Right.
you know. So you can see the changes, you know.
Yeah.
All right, now tell me about your family now, okay? Your
Okay.
wife,
My-
she was a teacher, was a teacher?
My wife was a teacher in the parochial school system.
Holy Savior,
she,
right?
She taught at Holy Saviors, and now she is working at the University of Pennsylvania's medical school in the Department of Psychiatry, and she really loves her job. And yeah, she was a teacher for some time, but then she moved on and moved up.
Right.
From Holy Saviors to the University of Pennsylvania.
Well, how about you? Now, you live in Norristown. You're a lawyer, you know, and do you have any, I don't use this word, I don't use big word, aspirations of already running for office here in Norristown or so? Or
Well,
you think about it?
Well, I've thought about it, but I may be a little too old. I may be a little too old.
No.
But
You know what they say? Get a young doctor and an old lawyer. Because the laws don't change that much, right?
Yes, that's true. It would be very flattering to.
Well,
to be
I think
asked.
you get in some kind of capacity in Norristown to help movement. Get on the committee or something. We need something that council can't do everything, but you know, get somebody help out. I'd like to have people write in, give me complaints or anything that would help the community. So if you half hour is over, go ahead. What'd you say?
I'd be more than happy to serve in any capacity.
Okay, we're going to work on something. Maybe you can help me out and getting people to speak out and help out, make this the greatest town in the country, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for allowing us to come into your home. And my guest here is a great guy that I worked with many years. And so I'm very happy that you were able to make it.
My pleasure.
You're going to hear more from Joe Hylan, okay? So until we meet again, let's have a little toast here. And we say, in my paisan say, ala salud, means your health,
Salud.
right?
But I gotta